Hello, cruel world. My name is Dr. Shaham Das. I'm a consultant forensic psychiatrist. I assess mentally disordered offenders for a living so that you don't have to. Is Jimmy Savile insane? Is he crazy? So I'm making this video in response to some of the comments that I've had in my previous video where I did a psychoanalysis of Jimmy Savile. And there's a bit of a theme in some of the comments which came up, and I think it's really interesting. So I'm making this quick off-the-cuff video to address this. So I can understand why people might think that what Jimmy Savile is, or what he did, is crazy. Nobody is denying that what he did was not horrific, was not completely lacking empathy, was not twisted, was not perverse. Everybody knows that. But was he actually crazy? I can understand why people think that, especially somebody mentioned that there was, rumours of necrophilia, but I don't think he was, and I'll explain why. Well, first of all, how do you define crazy? I think there's three different types of definition. There's what the ordinary layperson might say, so the public, you viewers, for example, my psych for guys and gals, which is often if somebody does something that's not understandable to them. So if they do something really extreme, like what Jimmy Savile did, or the horrific abuse that he committed. And so if they do something that you can't understand and their ethical compass is so off and so warped that you or people around you can't understand how any normal quote-unquote person would do that, then that's one definition. And if you use that definition, then obviously, yes, Jimmy Savile is all of those things. Then there's the formal psychiatric definition. So somebody like myself, I'm a consultant forensic psychiatrist. So my definition of insane would be somebody who is acutely psychotic. So they've got a disease like schizophrenia, they're hearing voices, they're having paranoid delusions that people are watching them, people want to kill them, for example. Jimmy Savile absolutely does not fit into this category. Then there's the third definition, which I think is actually the most relevant in this particular case and in all criminal cases, which is the legal definition of insanity. So you've probably heard of the psychiatric defense, not guilty by reason of insanity. So obviously Jimmy Savile was never trialed, so this was never put forward as a possible defense. But just to teach you guys, I won't go through all the legal terminology because it will be dry, but just to say briefly, for somebody to meet that threshold, they either didn't know what they were doing or they didn't know what they were doing was wrong. And I think Jimmy Savile definitely knew what he was doing because he tried to cover it up in so many different ways. He used his fame, he used his notoriety, he's used his peers around him to cover up what he was doing. To give a specific example, he was even pally with and had dinner with the police constables on a regular basis. Seemingly so that he could carry favour with them so they wouldn't prosecute him, right? So if he didn't know what he was doing, then he wouldn't have done any of those things, or if he didn't know what he was doing was wrong. So in my profession, I do sometimes very occasionally see people that get the insanity defence, and it's usually for serious physical violence, sometimes even killing people. So if you're interested, I've got a couple of videos on this channel about my most extreme emotional case, which is about a young teenage girl who ended up killing her own nephew because she was suffering from these paranoid delusions. So for example, she believed that the nephew had like demons inside, so she was suffering from specific delusions. And another high profile case would be 𝐏𝐸𝐲𝐜𝐡 𝐅𝐸𝐧𝐿. So she's somebody that killed her own 5 children, again, because she had psychotic delusions at the time and she believed she had to do this, otherwise the devil would take them. So what I'm saying is, in these exceptionally rare cases, and it's only a very small proportion of cases that will get that finding, it's because the person's suffering from specific symptoms of mental illness which compel them to act in a certain way. None of that is relevant for Jimmy Savile. So legally speaking, he is not insane. I've done a video on 𝐏𝐸𝐲𝐡 as well, in case you're interested. It's really unusual for somebody in a sexual assault case to get the insanity plea, because it's just like, you can see how somebody might lash out with paranoid delusions and kill somebody, but it's really hard to think of a circumstance where somebody with delusions sexually assaults somebody, or even a group of people like Jimmy Savile did over a long period of time. I have seen it once in my career. It's a very weird case where the man had schizophrenia and he believed that he needed to impregnate a number of people. He actually assaulted a family member Didn't actually manage to do it because she managed to get away. But the point is that he had these like delusions about his bloodlines and about the world being taken over. So he felt compelled to do it. And obviously, we don't just take his word at face value. There has to be psychiatric evidence from a consultant forensic psychiatrist like myself. So go through his medical records, witness statements, etc., etc. But that's a different topic. So in conclusion, what I'm saying is that what Jimmy Savile did was clearly twisted, it was horrendous, it was perverse, showed a massive lack of empathy, showed that he felt so entitled towards being able to get sex, extremely misogynistic. He was not very narcissistic. Basically everything I said in my original video about my psychoanalysis, all of that is absolutely true. But is he insane? Is he crazy? My answer is no. And I could go even further than that. I would say it's dangerous to call him crazy because that almost excuses him from his actions. So lots of people have what we would consider twisted ideals or twisted morals or twisted ethics, and they do really extreme things, from suicide bombers to right-wing Nazis to child sex offenders to serial killers. But just because what they do is extreme doesn't mean that they're insane. They're two very different things and they shouldn't be conflated. So to finish, I'm just going to give you my final thoughts. I want to be absolutely crystal clear. I'm not defending Jimmy Savile in any way. In fact, I'm doing the opposite. I'm saying that we can't call him crazy because he needs to be held, well, I was about to say he needs to be held responsible for his actions, but obviously that can't happen, can it? Because he never went to trial. He died before any of this became public news, although there were people that knew allegedly when it was happening. So not in Jimmy Savile's particular case, but in general, we can't excuse people who are prolific sex offenders by calling them crazy, because it might give them a psychiatric defense. It might send them towards rehabilitation in hospital rather than prison. In my opinion, prison is what they need. People like this need to be held, need to be accountable for their actions. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Just wanted to drop this quick video. Very quickly going to tell you a little bit about my channel, A Psych for Sore Minds. If you like your true crime with a twist of psychiatry, you've got to go and check out my other videos. I've done a psychoanalysis on Anna Delvey from the Netflix special Inventing Anna. I actually did the psychopath test on her, so I formally assessed her with the test. Go check it out, give me my thoughts on Putin. If you want something a little bit more broader about true crime, I've done a video on the difference between organised versus disorganised serial killers, and I've even psychoanalyzed your favourite killer, Ted Bundy. Go and check it out. See my other videos, buy my book, do stuff, have a nice day, stay 𝐿𝐽𝐽. Do not forget, I love you.